you start the countdown, bro, and I'll do my intro real quick.
So, are you going live immediately?
Yeah. All right. Hey everybody, Raul Reyes Jr. here with Manny Rodriguez, my partner with Tacobout Live, and senatorial candidate for Senate District 24 here in Texas, Raul Reyes. Right, yeah, bro. Tacos ready here, guys. We're doing broadcast. Cinematography, whatever you call that, filmmaking, photography, Jesse Perales in Carrizo Springs, and I'll go ahead and link him in a little bit here. But Jesse came all the way from Carrizo to Del Rio to be with us, and we just saw him this weekend. He was up in Blanco, Texas for the wedding event with Manny's son. So we're gonna have a special broadcast this morning. As you can see, we're all rigged up here, running simultaneously. Talk about it live. We got the tacos, bro. We got coffee. Yeah, we got this great coffee that Manny always has ready for us. Yeah, just like and share, guys. I don't think it's like to be heard about live.
They're getting behind the scenes.
Hey, behind the scenes, that's right. And real quick up here, the shirt. Thanks to Jane for sending us the shirt. It says Taco Emergency, call 911.
I love that.
Yeah, some folks might cringe at that. Hey, man.
Welcome to South Texas.
Welcome to South Texas, man, where everything is special.
Special. I love that.
Yeah. Love, like, share, follow our respective, Facebook pages here. We need to create awareness.
All right. Well, good morning. Good morning. We're on Talk About It Live with Frank and Manny. How you doing this morning there, Frank?
Hey, good morning, Manny. Good morning, everybody.
All right. We got special guest here, Raul Reyes, as well. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, doing great. How about yourself, guys? We have tacos. We have coffee. We've got a few of the folks we know back here as well, and
Yes.
I think we're ready to have a great conversation this morning. Right?
Yeah, we're ready to rock and roll,
Ready
man.
to rock and roll.
Amen. Amen. So this is good times. You got to start the day off Taco Tuesday with a nice cup of coffee and a good taco.
Taquitos.
In good company. In good company.
I praise the Lord. Yeah,
Yeah,
I had a taco here earlier before the show. I don't know where it went.
It just
but-
disappeared, bro.
I think it's in your belly now.
But praise the Lord, man, and I just want to give honor and praise the Lord as well. My son got married over the weekend.
Praise
Oh,
God.
congratulations.
My
Yeah.
youngest son, praise the Lord, to a beautiful woman named Gina, and so we're very, very proud and thankful to the Lord to have her in our family now. And so if they're watching, I wanted to say blessings to you both, and I'm so proud of you, son. My oldest son, he's 30 years old. He's still single, if you're out there, I'll post a picture of him here later. And so,
we're going to try to find him a wife. We're looking for a 30-year-old spouse.
Yes.
So.
Man. Or 35. It doesn't matter.
Well, you get it all on the show, right? Politics and relationship building.
Yeah.
So.
Man. So Raul, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. I know you got a lot going on. You're running for Senate this time around in Senate District 24, correct?
That's correct. I've been here before. We've had a conversation of, why we're doing this. And so Senate District 24 is down there, the little sliver of Atascosa County, just a little bitty piece, and we can talk about that here in a little while as to why that happened. Then it covers Medina. Medina County used to be part of Senate District 19. It is now part of Senate District 24 that goes all the way, and it stays on the left side or the west side of Bexar County and Travis, all the way to Bell and Coryell up in there. So if you live in Burnett, Lampasas, Llano, and it takes a little bit of a hard left there all the way to Sutton County, which is Sonora, Texas. So if you're in Sonora, if you're listening to us here, hit the like and share buttons and let people know we're running in Senate District 24. And between Sonora, of course, and Burnett, Lampasas, in that area is Kimball County is also in there, Junction, Texas. So yeah, they've got some great barbecue.
They got some awesome barbecue over there. Yeah, that's one of my favorite places to go eat over there. Actually, there's not too many unfavorite places, that I don't have.
And the river there is beautiful, man. What river? Llano River.
I have a horrible comment I'm going to leave to myself. But this is why we're a little healthy here, folks, because there's no barbecue that we don't like.
Yeah. But I'm glad you're here, Raul. And even though we're here in District 23, here in Del Rio, Valverde County, the border crisis that's going on over here in this area affects that district that you're running for, right?
It does. So this is Valverde County. This is, of course, I grew up here in Del Rio, Texas, and we're down here just to, again, as we've always been doing it, and Frank as well, you, Manny, and a whole lot of other folks in this area, all the way down to McAllen, and all the way up to Austin. It's border activists who, since Joe Biden took office, have been trying to bring attention to the mess he's created down here. Remember, things were working swell. I mean, the Trump administration secured this border as best it could. It quelled the illegal invasion that we're seeing now, and got us on the right path to having a conversation and a debate about how we finally secure this border. So we're down here today doing a few things, again, in our activists, and of course we're running for Senate. So we're going to convert that into doing big things for the state of Texas. I always ask, Frank, at my town hall meetings, does anybody believe the federal government is going to secure this border?
No.
And the answer, it's a resounding no. So Texas has to act, but it's going to be bold leaders to go up there, representatives of the people who demand that this border be secured.
And of course, we bring to the table not just activism, because Biden became president. Manny and I, as military policemen, as border patrol agents, 25, 30 years. But Raul also, as a retired lieutenant colonel, United States Air Force, was stationed down in South America, folks. In Colombia, worked in Colombia, Venezuela, Central America, Caribbean. So uniquely qualified to present the issues and concerns that are affecting our state, our nation, the border regions, Texas, of course, to present those issues in Austin. And so this is the kind of qualified, experienced expertise we need at the Capitol, because you got a lot of folks that have never been to the border, and they want to, and they come on a trip. I've been to the border 1, 2, 3, 4 times.
Well, and let me jump in there, Frank. We've got some opponents in this race, and I see them with pictures, but I have yet to see them. You were the one. We have to give credit to Frank Lopez here, in particular, because he called one day and he said we have got to do a border rally to bring attention to Del Rio, and it just it synergized a whole lot of people to get involved. And sure enough, very successful border symposium that we had here. We were the guest speakers, trying to get people integrated into the conversation. And of course, I think we went to Carrizo Springs, of all places, right down the road. And Jesse, who you can't see, who's on the other side here of the camera, that's his hometown down there. We were called by the Pettises, wonderful people out there, to try to bring attention to the asylum shelters out there, which, by the way, we have to. We have to decertify those NGOs that are purposely bringing illegal aliens under policy into the United States, and they're using Texas as a doormat to do that.
And they're using our tax dollars as well, which is a total travesty, man. That's money that could be going to our children, to our communities, to be used to better the lives of Texans. And instead, the Biden administration is hell-bent on not just destroying our nation, but on breaking the bank in the process, man.
Right. It is.
And of course, let's not leave any rock unthrown. Establishment.
Why would we be here, right?
Establishment Swamp has had a part to play in that. Senator John Cornyn was here yesterday. Hey, Senator Cornyn, I think you missed the invasion by 3 or 4 months. Everybody's come and gone, Senator. And by the way, it's your Texas GOP parties that work for you on the ground. And they're the ones that go block walking, putting up signs and telling people about you. It'd be nice, Senator Cornyn, if when you come into Valverde County, you stop and you visit with Anna Chapman, her and her husband have been faithful Republicans for 20, 30, 40 years. Kerry Martin, who's been a faithful Republican. I'm just saying that when you come to town, it'd be nice to visit with your local Republican Party and just tell them, hello, I'm in town. I know you guys work for me later on as volunteers.
Yeah, because I really didn't see anything to tell you the truth.
He met with the ruling class here in Valverde County, bro.
But Manny, that's how they do it, right? And Frank's, he's passionate. No, he's definitely passionate, folks. But he's talking about the squishy Republicans, right? And we've used that term before. And what happens is, that type of Republican will show up into town, do the photo op, just call a few folks, but won't give the constituents an opportunity to ask questions. Like, for instance, John Cornyn is part of a group of Republicans and Democrats that are trying to open up more asylum shelters. And folks, those are a drain on Texas. All they are is illegal alien processing centers. And again, if blessed to be the senator, we will decertify any of those NGOs that are purposely using false policy to get illegal aliens into the state of Texas. We have got to stop that. And again, we all went out to try to get John Cornyn reelected. They said, keep it red, remember that? And we did. And all of a sudden, he's one of the ones that potentially, he didn't vote for the 3.5 trillion, but the bottom line is what you're going to hear from Raul Reyes is straight talk. I'm here hanging out with Frank and Manny, and when we talk about folks like John Cornyn, we're disappointed, and you should be, because he's a Republican who said he would do many things and has failed to do that. And imagine that you go and do what you said you're going to do, Manny. Right. The last time I heard that came from a guy named Donald J. Trump.
Yep.
Who nobody believed would do anything, and it turned out to be one of the greatest presidents we've ever had.
All of us here we're in the military, and even Jesse over here in the Army as well. Three Army, 1 Air Force. We're not going to hold that against
I can't. Folks, I cannot pitch a tent, and that's why I didn't go Army. I can't pitch a tent.
Yeah, but sir, the thing that I was going to mention about that is that in the military, you go to basic training, you get your MOS, your military occupation. And no one should keep coming up to you and reminding you every day of what you should be doing in regards to defending the nation, defending the country. And then when the fighting begins at the basic level, you should be able to pick up arms and defend your country and defend the ideology of this great country that we serve.
Our principles.
Yeah, our principles, right? And even the United States Constitution. So we have Cornyn, who's not doing a thing, and then we have Tony Gonzalez over here, who's doing stuff, but completely against everything that he should stand for in regards to border security, in regards to the office of representative here for the people of Texas and also the people of America.
And let me jump in real quick, Raul. I just got to jump in and say something about that. Look, folks, we create our own monsters. We create our own monsters because we don't research. We don't spend time talking to these people. We allow them to come into our town and take photo ops, and we never call them on the carpet. So let me tell you something about Tony Gonzalez, though. He was created by people within CD23. What do I mean by that? He was groomed in the offices of Senator Marco Rubio in Florida. Then he moves to Bexar County, San Antonio. He was going to run in CD35 against Lyle Doggett. But people here in CD23, Congressional District 23, recruited him. and they got him to come over. And there were people in this district that actively fought against Raul Reyes to run for Congress. They lied about him. They slandered him. This is a friend, and they treated him very, very badly. And now they want people to forget what they did, right, Raul? They want to forget that we had a border security constitutional warrior ready to go to D.C. and secure this border. But instead, people sold out, and they, through the Reyes campaign to include us, they called us what? The cartel. The cartel. And so now,
not good.
Now who's letting in the cartel? Tony Gonzalez has allowed that to happen.
And who's facilitating it? Tony Gonzalez as well, because he's over here supporting these NGOs.
And he's flying them out of law.
So let me bring it back to the Senate race. We have a very similar approach to this race. We have what I would consider an establishment candidate, the chosen candidate. And, and you don't have to research very far and wide, but and we said this in front of the lieutenant governor whom I voted for and I respect, but you can't bring in squishy Republicans into the state of Texas and expect to get good results. This district, Congressional District 23, is a good example of that, and of course Senate District 24. Thankfully is staunchly conservative, and I really believe the good people of those counties are going to see who the real constitutional conservative is. But the play is in that tactic is in play right now.
And so what they did in Senate District 24, folks, go look at the maps that are out there. They're online. I'll provide a link here at some point. They gerrymandered the district, though. Well, there's no other way of saying it, right? There was a sliver sliced out that runs to the front door of your opponent in Senate District.
That is correct, and so people are upset about that, and we'll take that energy and make it positive and say, look, the good news is we've proven ourselves in a previous campaign where I believe they had to go into the gutter to just tear us down. Yeah. And by the way, this race isn't over yet. I tell folks that it's amazing when we have our opponent on the ropes and he's going down for the count, that they tend to go for the sucker punches at the very end. And desperation, right? That's politics. And so, what I'm saying now to folks is, look, we are who we say we are. And of course, Frank was the campaign manager in the last race. He's helping us out in this one as well, and to a certain extent. And then, of course, what we need to do is let folks know about this tactic, because this is how we erode our politics. We get a guy, whether it's a him or her, with a lot of money, they make them look great, and all of a sudden you wake up to a rhino.
Right.
And people are complaining about why we can't get policies through. I remind folks, it was a Republican representative out of San Antonio who amended the law for election integrity from a felony to a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
Steve Allison did that out of Bexar County.
Wow.
So we're throwing out names here, folks, because
we
have to know.
Yeah.
People need to know. Yeah. And Andy Murr was on the gavel. He, but the amendment was by Steve Allison. So all this is happening under Republican leadership.
Yeah.
And so, when we talk about the coming elections, we want nothing but Republicans to win the House, both at the U.S. level and, of course, keep Texas red. Yeah. But we want the right Republicans, the right conservatives, or else what happens is people wake up to a facade. Kevin McCarthy's been down in here into South Texas, anointing candidates. And, Manny, you've seen that. And that's really the right word, because they're trying to harness South Texas coming into the fold. A lot of folks down in this area are not voting Democrat again, but what I remind folks is, they're also not going to vote for Liz Cheney. You gentlemen know who Liz Cheney is. And what I ask is, if Liz Cheney gets past her opponent in the primary, will you vote for Liz Cheney? And the answer is always no. Yeah. Case in point here locally in this district, with Tony Gonzalez. Yeah. But then at the same time with squishy Republicans that are running in Senate district races as well, or House races for that matter. We've got to pick constitutional conservatives. The good news about a guy like Donald J. Trump is that we are awake to these politics, not woke. Right. And I tell folks, what the incumbents, both Democrats and Republicans, need to understand is there potentially will be a political bloodbath. Let me say that, political bloodbath in the primaries, because people are really tired of incumbents saying one thing and then doing another.
Yeah.
That is the political atmosphere we're in right now.
But the problem we see here on the border, the role as well, is that, you know, even though people, and I agree with what you say, they're tired of incumbents, but the sad thing is a lot of people don't research beyond the incumbent.
Yeah.
And so they go to a name that they're familiar with, they see it on the ballot, or they only focus on their favorite candidate and don't realize that there's other people running for office that you know, like for school board, for city council, other things that will affect, you know, the rest of the country per se, you know, because and so if you don't do your research on what candidates we're going to get people like Tony Gonzalez in office.
And what happens on the border doesn't stay on the border, folks.
No.
And it affects, you know, somebody might say, what are you talking about the border? Look, when you get a massive influx of people into your community, into your state, do they bring the hundreds of thousands of dollars it's going to take to sustain them and their families, their children, the educational system? No, it's going to come from the established, you know, taxpayers of that state. So
That's us. That's us.
what happens on the border doesn't stay on the border. It spreads through Texas and into the interior of the country, where these people are getting flown out of Laughlin to Louisiana. We got contacts up in the northern border. They're saying, yeah, we're seeing them up here now. It's a mass infusion, a mass invasion that's being facilitated by our government, folks. And so now that we're in primary season, you're going to see people lining up. December 13th is that deadline. Get involved at your local level. You've got to get involved. School board, hospital district, county, city, water districts, whatever has electable positions, you got to get involved. December 13th is a cutoff for some of those offices there. Do your research locally.
And Manny and Frank, you know, I was doing some reading this morning, and there's a lot of Democrats that are incumbents that are no longer seeking re-election.
Wow.
And of course, and we can have this conversation. Folks will know I'm not afraid to touch any rail, third, the second. It doesn't really matter. But you know, we have Democrats that are coming over into the Republican Party as well.
Right.
You know, we had this Ryan Guillen in South Texas.
HD 31.
HD 31, who's come over. You know, they're in survival mode, folks, and you have to ask yourself. By the way, in HD 31, there's a Navy retired captain, Michael Monreal, who's running.
Yeah.
Didn't get a look from anybody, did he? And we've sort of blessed Ryan Guillen to come over. Let me say this, you know, we need to get more folks to stop voting Democrat. In fact, a large part of Texas, not just South Texas, has been conservative for a long time. But they sit out elections, or when they do, what happens is, you know, they're looking at both Democrats and Republicans, and we end up, you know, we end up sitting out. People sit out the vote, and that's how Democrats end up winning these things. So. But in that HD 31, Frank, we have. By the way, there was another lady. There was another lady. I don't remember her name. I apologize for that. But when did we go with a the Ryan Guillen, who, by the way, is still he endorsed Joe Biden.
Yeah. So let me, man, I got a mouthful to say here real quick. Here.
And I'm gonna drink a little coffee with this.
So what we saw happen, folks, was that as soon as Ryan Guillen jumped over, Abbott, Dade Phelan lined up behind him right off the bat. Meanwhile, last time Guillen ran, he was challenged by a Republican, Marion Knowlton, who was well qualified to run for that position. The establishment out of Austin did not even pass gas her away, man. They didn't even look at her.
Wow.
And now you got two warriors in HD 31.
Did not get a look.
They didn't even get a look. The lady.
But let me tell you, Frank. In that previous race with Miss Knowlton, also, you know, my establishment opponent would not endorse her either.
Yeah.
You see, and I'm going to say it. Senator Peter Flores would not endorse Marion Knowlton.
He wouldn't endorse a Republican with experience, well qualified.
And the reason was because he said that Ryan Guillen was his good friend. And so folks, those are the sort of the integrals of what's happening in politics. And so you have to ask yourself, is this good conservatives coming over, waking up, and we're all going to be Republican? And the answer is is Dade Phelan really the guy who want to be the Speaker of the House? And of course, with a guy like Ryan Guillen as the Republican.
So what does this mean for you? That's just politics. No, look, folks. Either you're going to get candidates that go fight for you, that are the champion of we the people, or you're going to get people that are beholding to the powers that be. And so the powers that be here are the Republicans, and I'm a Republican. I'm the county chairman here.
We're proud Republicans.
We're Republicans.
Yeah, proud Republicans.
But our established Republican leaders, quote unquote, have had control of the House in Texas for 17, 18 years, and yet here we are struggling. It took a monumental grassroots push just to get constitutional carry across the board. But what about gender modification? What about property tax? What about border security? What about election security? I mean, they're still trying to fight for all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key ones, Manny, is election, we call it election integrity, but it's really, are your elections secure? And that's another one where I'm at the town halls, and it's a resounding no. And under the Republican leadership, the charge, what you would be charged for if you fraudulently voted went from a felony, which is a very stiff, needed criminal law, all of a sudden went to a misdemeanor. I think your speeding ticket down Main Street is going to be more expensive than if you fraudulently voted for it.
Which is ridiculous, because this affects us as a country, as a nation, as a people. They had a forum, I guess, down here Thursday, right? I don't know.
Oh, the town hall.
Yeah, town hall. I didn't get to attend it, but I read some of the quotes, the reviews and whatnot, and it was sad to me that some of the local leaders are basically saying their hands are tied and they don't know what to do in regards to border security. And we've been talking a lot about what the governor should be doing, in regards to border security and focusing on Mexico's commerce. Where do you stand on that, Raul?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. So here's the thing: is even inside the Republican tent, we need to apply pressure to our current leaders. And by the way, this is a robust debate that we have to have inside the Republican tent. For whatever reason, in the Senate, Manny, they make everything look cookie cutter, and then when the laws that we really need to just jump on, because we have to be dynamic in the Senate and in the House as well.
Right.
If you look over at Florida, what's happening there is they're literally going tit for tat against Joe Biden. If Joe Biden says we're going to do this, Florida throws OSHA out of the state. Joe Biden says he's going to do this. Florida just passed a law yesterday that says this.
And look how much Florida's recovering. I mean, their unemployment rate is declining. I mean, they're having great success.
So let me say something about that as well, real quick. Here, what's happening with Florida? And
what do you have to say, Frank?
Yeah. So Governor DeSantis reached out to the West Coast. All those backed up overseas containers come to Florida.
Yeah.
So they had to go down to the Panama Canal,
go around
and go out to Florida. Where in the heck was Governor Abbott saying bring that business to Texas? Bring those shipping boats to Texas. Instead, he said, throw me some containers and we'll put them up here as a fence. Which we know is ineffective.
So we're going to be out at the border. And for folks who wonder, why is Raul in Senate District 24 down in Valverde? Well, we're out here as we've been here, and Frank and Manny, everybody here knows, we've not just been in Valverde, we've been all the way down to McAllen and Laredo and all these other places. We're not going to stop fighting to secure this border, because every county in Senate District 24 is a border county.
Right.
And so if we don't bring this to the attention of the good folks of all the counties in Texas, then we're not going to make that progress. But you're right, Frank, we have got to have these robust debates in the Senate. If I'm blessed to be the next senator, that's exactly what we're going to do. What is that? Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Oh, yeah.
But we have to be louder than that. Our sovereignty is at stake. Election integrity or security, really, there is none right now. We're going to be pushing for forensic audits in the primaries.
Wow.
Good.
Because that's really where the problems are.
Right.
This is where you have the, remember Rachel Rodriguez, the politiquera?
Oh, yeah.
And
Out of Bexar County.
Out of Bexar County, right? This is the people, and not, this is not just a South Texas. This is a all Texas issue where people harvest votes, and they go around and they give you goodies for your vote. Where you traditionally wouldn't vote, somebody comes back around and says, we've got these things, here, sign here, and all of a sudden your absentee vote is in the mail. So all of these things have to be looked at, but we have to have these discussions inside the Republican tent, or else Texas, which I believe is purple in a lot of places and blue, it's going to go blue. And let me qualify that a little bit.
Yeah.
Nobody overnight goes, I've just decided I'm gonna go blue here. That doesn't happen to humans. I mean, it's not a human nature just to overnight. It's rare, but it doesn't happen. What happens in politics and the way we go blue is because you have two choices in November: socialist, Marxist, communist, Democrat, or a very squishy Republican.
Yeah.
And you realize, well, they almost
Keep
look
it
alike.
red.
They
Keep
look,
it red.
yeah, keep it red. They look alike. In Bexar County is a perfect example. We had a mayor's race,
Right.
4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mayor Ron and I forget who the other, Greg Brockovich.
Oh, yeah.
And Mayor Ron. Well, one is liberal and the other one is less liberal.
Yeah.
So only 13 to 16% of Bexar County came out to vote.
Yeah.
And people wonder, well, why didn't the Republicans come out to vote? Because it's hard to vote for the less liberal guy who really isn't even conservative at all. And that's the problem we have in our politics here.
And people don't step up, folks. I mean, you've heard me. I've been freaking screaming from the rooftop. We need involvement. Either you're going to be a complainer or you're going to be a participator. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, folks. Our state, our sovereignty, our future, our nation is at stake, and people have to get involved. Real quick, you mentioned Rachel Rodriguez. Rachel was hired by a lot of people in San Antonio, by several people, Republican and Democrat, to go get the vote. Get the vote. So people need to remember that name, Rachel Rodriguez, and
I'm
who
sure
she works for.
I'm sure it's going to pop up later,
Yeah.
Frank. It's going to be a key thing in this. But
Yeah.
so look, the bottom line, and you're right, people have got to get involved. It reminds me of a story, about 3 years ago. I'd gotten so upset with the politics, kind of like the passion that both these men have, and a lot of folks out there. You're yelling and you're screaming at the TV, and I had accumulated enough spit on the screen of my monitor there.
Couldn't see it.
Yeah, my beautiful wife, she's like, okay, I'm getting tired of wiping this thing down. You're either gonna do something or you're not. And but it triggers you to engage.
Yeah.
And folks, let me tell you something. And I don't know if Manny or Frank, they have donate buttons somewhere, but everything you're seeing here, this is nobody's getting paid here. This is all grassroots, from the heart, from Manny, who's put all this, along with Frank and his podcast as well. We've got Jesse back here, trying to make a living doing these things. And all of this is out of their own economics, their own heart, to try to bring to you these podcasts, which, by the way, is very professional looking. This is amazing. We got studio galore here, but all this is the expense that every one of these folks are putting together to bring you the truth about conservative activism and or action that is happening in our communities. And I know what I would tell you, Frank, is that, and it's hard because you're out there trying to bring the news.
Yeah.
Anybody out there having the same difficulty I am finding real news?
Yeah.
I mean, even Fox News is about the only guy that I can watch on there now is Tucker Carlson. And because everything else is sort of a facade. Right. And I was at a General Flynn event last week, and Mike Lindell spoke. And he has no love lost for Fox News, because he now says, Manny, he says, I've been foxed, and meaning they blanked him out, because he's right. If you go to Fox News, you get just the cookie cutter, this Democrat, Republican, but what they don't talk about is the real activities that's happening inside of America.
And it's amazing because I get texts, and emails and all the time thanking us for keeping the border crisis in people's face, because the reality is when I watch the mainstream media, I really don't even see any stories about the border crisis. We're still getting over 1,000 illegal aliens per day here in Del Rio.
Yeah, that's 5,000 on the border.
5,000 on the border, and the reality is over 90% of them are being released into your communities, folks. And Frank, you talked to some NGO people the other day at the local gas station over here. And you can go to Frank's. You can. It's on our page too. I'll talk about it live. But these NGOs are pitiful, man. In my opinion, they're facilitating and furthering illegal immigration, human trafficking, even sex trafficking. Border Patrol just found 2 abandoned children the other day. 2 Hondureños, Honduran children, toddlers, man, like ages 4 or 5. And the Border Patrol asked where's their mother. They said, oh, she's back in Honduras. So this mother trusted these children to a smuggler, right? And then the coyote just abandoned them at the river. Folks, many of these children end up being sex trafficked, right? And sad to say, a lot of these NGOs will further that and facilitate that.
And they're getting paid with the taxpayers' dime as well. They'll deny it and everything. The money gets around. I mean, $2 billion went no bid contracts by this Biden administration. Endeavor's one of them, where Tony Gonzalez is at. But when you start poking them, you start poking the bear. They don't like you telling the truth. I think I mentioned it to you guys, but yesterday I got what I would consider to be a threat of bodily injury and a death threat. Bro.
Wow.
But a few, right? Not just one, right? You've been threatened.
Yeah, several times already. But these were it's serious, man. One guy says, hey, you took our lands. We could take everything you own, including your life.
So you're responsible. You're the ones responsible for taking the land. Is that? Yeah.
Yes, bro. Yeah.
You single-handedly did it.
Yeah, bro. I came over, man. Superman.
But that reminds me of we were in Medina County at a rally, folks, and all of a sudden we get this. Everybody's looking out the door, and there's some guy out there flying his Mexican flag, screaming at us, and something about the Aztecs and the native lands, and anyway.
Yeah, there were several treaties that were signed pertaining to that.
The guy was very,
that Mexico recognizes.
But one of them was a person affiliated with. Well, let me just say that. He came out let me qualify that. He came out in defense of the Valverde Border Humanitarian Coalition. And
this threat that you're talking about.
Yeah, this threat. And so he's talking about, look, you're filming these people. You did that last month. What goes around comes around. Hey, look, man, that's a threat. And we actually have sat here and said, we're not advocating violence. We don't want violence.
Right.
We had that Christians Against Sexual Exploitation event down in Carrizo Springs because we wanted the children to be protected. These children need to be with their parents within the God-ordained family structure.
And let's look at the reality what these NGOs are doing as well. We're getting reports. I'm getting reports from agents and other officials within DHS that are dropping and receiving these illegal aliens, and NGOs are transporting, helping them get chartered to wherever they want to go, and then people are getting dropped off. Illegal aliens are getting dropped off, not having any place to go once they get to their destination.
And the children are it's unfortunate they're being used as baggage, and by that I mean real, like they grab.
That's your ticket.
That's right. That's their ticket because these. As long as you come in as a family unit, they're gonna let you in, and all that goes back to a little thing called the Florida settlement or the.
But there's no investigation. The NGOs don't even ask questions. They just trust that these children are with these adults, and the reality is a lot of them aren't. They're fraudulent families, and so they're and sadly many of these children get involved with sex trafficking.
Frank had a great video. Was it yesterday? Where and he's at the stripes, and the crazy part to me, Frank, is that. The NGO has money on the money clip. Yeah, it was right. There was money on the
clipboard.
On the clipboard, they were handing that to them. I guess.
Yeah, they had the money there, and of course they try to hide it. They try to hide the money of it, but it was right on top of the clipboard. They had a printer, a laptop. I mean, it was a little processing station set up. Not processing, but an outbound travel tour station set up there. They had these white 15-passenger vans driving up. It was nonstop, and this has been going on. Several weeks ago, I followed a little red car from the humanitarian as the woman ferried people back and forth to the airport, 4 or 5 at a time. I got that on video. I need to throw that out.
And the Border Patrol, we saw that all the time going on with smugglers.
Yeah, right? that's smuggling activity.
That's smuggling activity.
I mean, we see it. It's like, wow, man, this is
so
like
when people ask, and you know, back again to when people ask, well, look, we've got the National Guard down here, and by the way, we spent the night here at one of the local hotels. It's got a lot of wonderful DPS law enforcement. We absolutely love them. These two gentlemen here, former Border Patrol, and they're law enforcement. Love those guys. But the policy is all wrong, because ultimately what happens, folks, and this is what we want to address in the Senate, and that is, you know, if you're going to arrest people, you have to tell the rest of the story, because when we arrest folks down here on the border, whether it's the DPS or the Guard, and hand them over to Border Patrol,
right,
the end result is still the same. It's delayed, but the end result is still release, because once you give them back to DHS, whether Border Patrol or ICE, the ultimate result is it's a catch and release, delayed, albeit, but it's still a catch and release.
And I have no problem with our DPS and with our National Guard that are down here, and all the officers there. What I have a problem with are the governor's policies and the regard and the mission itself, because it's in my opinion, it's a failed mission, because border security is not taking place.
Yeah, it's dog and pony, man. It's just a bunch of it's Wizard of Oz stuff going on here. But there's let's definitely clear that up. There is no issue with the men and women on the ground, because they're the ones that have to strap on those gun belts, kiss their families goodbye, say goodbye, and they never know. They never know they're going to make it back at the end of the shift. And so, we have the respect for the frontliners, the first responders, but it's unfortunate that the policies of their bosses at the highest level are ineffective, they're inefficient. And so we have to hold our elected officials accountable. That's our money, man.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be good stewards of everything that's been given to us. And part of that stewardship falls within the realm of responsibility, holding officials responsible and accountable. So, people cringe at that. This is still we the people.
It's but they shouldn't anymore. And again, this is why we're here, because it's time to have those dialogues at the Senate level.
Right.
Because and this is why I'm not the chosen one in this race. I mean, the truth of the matter is I don't have all those fancy endorsements. And by the way, those came right as the maps came out. Within a couple of hours, all the endorsements for my opponents showed up. So I'm asking everybody here, Bell County, Coryell, all of you all look at that and realize when you see all those endorsements, all this was pre-coordinated, all of it, absolutely all of it, because this is how they want a very lukewarm, Republican to be your next senator, and probably because these are folks that they get up there and they go along to get along.
And then you have to look at Raul, when certain Republican candidates get endorsed and there's no complaint from the left. Something's up. But we got a comment here real quick. I don't know if you can answer it at all. Can the state act unilaterally on dealing with illegals, or will the feds sue them to stop?
To act unilaterally?
Act unilaterally with illegals.
So again, the Constitution is the foundation for why there's 50 states, folks. And back in the day with our founding fathers, they agreed to be a union of states, and that's why it's these United States. It's not the federal states of America. It just drives me nuts, because people flinch every time Joe Biden does anything, and the reason you do that is because we have no real counter defense at the state level. And so what happens is the answer to that is absolutely yes. We have to do a few things. For instance, if you go down the road here to Kinney County or even Goliad up there, you can go even into Senate District 24. A lot of wonderful county sheriffs out there. They're doing all they can to protect the citizens, but they're going to need true laws that allow them to remove illegal aliens, adjudicate them to a felony, and get them back across the border. Because what nobody's talking about here is deportation. That seems to be the word that nobody wants to throw out there. What happens down the road? Are we going to deport all these folks? The answer right now is we need to defend Texas. Then the state can do something, and this is why we're running for the state senate, because we need to push all our leaders to have this conversation openly. And they don't want to, because for whatever reason we don't want to take on the federal government, and probably money is involved with all of this.
And if I may jump in here real quick. When President Trump was in office, there's a phenomenon that happens when immigration laws start to be enforced. there's a phenomenon that's what's called self-deportation.
Yeah.
When I was in the United States Border Patrol, people don't realize that this actually happens. When illegal aliens are here and they start realizing that immigration laws are going to start being enforced, that their employers are going to start being fined and maybe even jailed, and they decide to leave. It starts to happen because people always said, "Can we go after these millions of illegal aliens?" We can't. It may be impossible to deport every one of them, but I can tell you, in my career in the Border Patrol, Frank, I don't know if I think you can agree with me on this, right? The self-deportation.
And it happens all the time, bro. Folks here in South Texas get used to seeing these Toyota Japanese trucks towing other Japanese trucks. They're to the sky with stuff strapped on. Those are Central Americans that are self-deporting. They get this. They go live in California out west, and they go to the tip of Texas because that's the closest point of Central America. And they drive all the way down with his vehicles, with car parts and everything. They go sell them, and then what do? They sneak back across because most of those have employment authorization cards under the temporary protected status that was granted under the Clinton administration. So it's a self-deportation happens yearly. We used to say, well, here comes the Christmas season, and everybody's going to head back south to go spend Christmas with their families.
Well, I've seen busloads of illegal aliens going south, and then they're afraid to come back because they know that they're going to get deported. However, with this administration, they don't know.
There's no border.
There's no border.
And I'm sure some of the viewers, let me bring this, they're cringing, right? Because these aren't conversations that future senators should be having, but we will. It's time to take the veil off and start having conversations like these at the state senate. And the reason people don't want to is because they don't have a real viable solution for it. Look, everything has a solution for it, but we're going to have to get uncomfortable with conversations that say, are we going to deport folks? How much authority do we give the county sheriffs? I think it ought to be as much as they need to be able to get rid of and remove that problem
from the state, right?
Yeah. Yes, right. Because what happens is it just on the Republican side, and I'm a proud conservative constitutionalist here. We have been proud Republican. We're going to have to start having this talk, or else it stays here, and we need it to move into the legislative levels of state.
And the reality is that the federal government will sue. They will come after the states if they start doing that.
Go.
Oh, I'm sorry, but the governor can enact laws to.
So look, if you look at there's enumerated clauses, and I think it's Article 1, Section 8 has something like 17 or 18. That's where you have the elastic clause and the commerce clause, and so what happens, folks, is the 10th Amendment, along with this part of the Constitution, is very clear. Those powers not given specifically to the federal government belong to the state.
Right.
So we have a right to defend ourselves. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 or 4, I believe.
2 and 3.
2 and 3, right. Those specifically say that in times of invasion, which is what's happening here, clearly that's what's happening down here. But Article 1, Section 8, with all those clauses down there, it's very specific about what the government will do and won't. What happens, Manny, is they look at the Commerce Clause, and this is what they use for Obamacare. They use the Commerce Clause to say, well, this is commerce across the state, so we can integrate this insurance to you as a tax. And they'll use the elasticity clause, which says, it's the very first one that says Congress will create any law to ensure that the Constitution is adhered to, and so they make all these different laws. So it's sort of this sliver of it was meant to adjudicate good due process for the federal government to stay in check, you see.
Right.
But a guy like Obama and all his minions back in the 2014 era, they figured out a way to take the Commerce Clause and say, well, we can force United States citizens to buy insurance.
Right.
We, Texas, can literally legislate against that because the 10th Amendment, when we go to the Supreme Court, it has to side with the state.
Yeah.
When it fails to do that, we are no longer these United States of America. But that has to happen.
Yeah.
And something that's been lost, look, folks, the reason we need to elect folks to, in this case, the state legislatures, because it's a foregone conclusion, at least under the Biden administration, nothing's going to happen nationally that's good for America. It's going to be detrimental for America.
Right.
So in that case, you do a tactical retreat. I guess you could say you hunker down at the state level, and so we need wise, solid legislation. Now, let me 19111. But anyways, it slips through every once in a while. It slips through.
Oh, thanks. I didn't get to thanks someone. Thanks. Give thanks to that shirt,
Jane.
for the shirt, Jane.
Hey, thanks, Jane.
Here on Tacobout Live for the Taco Emergency shirt.
By the way,
Yeah,
that's a great visual that Frank provides. It's understood the federal government is out here not to help us anymore. They're not going to secure this border, and they're not going to secure our elections. And they're going to spend all the money. So now it's back to the state.
The state.
And where at the state, it's in the Senate and the legislative body. You've got to start sending Texans, people who really mean it when they say, "Don't mess with Texans."
That's right.
I mean, it's lost its flaws there, because what we need to get that back, because they're running over the state of Texas. If you still have asylum shelters anywhere in Texas, and we are arresting but returning to border patrols so they can release, we have really not solved anything. And if you have amended the law for a penalty at a felony level to a misdemeanor on election integrity, there is something seriously wrong in the Republican Party. And so Raul Reyes is going to continue to call that out. You, the voters, will decide. It's time to bring in solid people into the legislative body.
Serious people, Raul, because they're not serious. And so let me finish this thought real quick as well. Sending people to in this case, the state legislature is critical, folks, for Texas, for America. For America, we have 38, probably more electoral college votes here by the time it's said and done. As goes Texas, goes the nation.
That's right.
And what has happened, 17, 18 years of Republican leadership in the state legislature, it's turned into a rubber stamp. It's turned into pushing through the will of a few select elitists and not the will of the people. So we need people's champions to go to Austin, to go to DC and fight for the people, fight for the state. Because the house is burning, folks. The house is on fire. And we can no longer say, smell smoke. Dude, it's on fire. We need to put it out. We need to act decisively, and we need to act now.
I get this visual when you're saying that, Frank. About people putting wet tiles at the bottom of the door there. Trying to keep
the houses on fire.
Trying to keep the smoke out. I'm gonna keep the smoke out, and I'm gonna go to bed. But eventually, the beds are gonna be.
Here's the great. Let me tell you, folks. This is a great conversation. I love it. And here's the one part we sometimes forget is we have folks like Manny and Frank, and by the way, there's this. We have a lot of friends that are activists across Texas.
Right.
There's a lot of folks that are on Facebook with their own personal pages. If you look at China Rodriguez out there, she's actually been in Austin trying to pass legislative priorities. You look at Rachel Malone from Gun Owners of America, very powerful in getting constitutional carry across the.
You look at Isaac Ruiz just down the road. He just got served again.
Served again for speaking the truth in Eagle Pass. Man, we haven't even talked about Eagle Pass in Maverick County.
That's Isaac, right? And what happens is, the good news is you've got this groundswell here. The problem we have is that if we serve to the voter a squishy Republican in November, that could be detrimental to the Republican Party. We are going to have to learn to call balls and strikes when it comes to these things, or else we're going to end up with squishy Republicans and Democrats. People aren't going to vote Democrat. I'm convinced about that, but they're also not going to vote for squishy Republicans.
And I think when we've talked to a lot of people down here. I've talked to quite a few people down here. So have you, Raul, and that have voted Democrat all their life. And then when you talk to them, you start telling them about the Republican platform. They're like, "Well, I believe in that. I believe in that." And then they realize that they're actually conservative, but they keep voting Democrat for some reason. Generational, cultural. I don't know. And I want to give a real quick shout out to HTX Renegade Radio as well. Thank you so much for watching us and keep up the good work over there where you guys are at as well. But so I encourage people, go look at the platforms. Look at the Republican platform. Look at the Democratic platform.
Yeah, tonight I'll be on Liberty Warrior Nation. That's another shout out, Liberty Warrior Nation. Tomorrow I'll be with Life with Liz. Liz is out of New Hampshire, but she's on target about what's happening on the border, affecting them up in the northeast corner of the country. So, folks, we want to thank you for joining us. We're not going to cut off here real quick, but just as we're saying the accolades and the shout outs, there's a lot of good folks out there that are watching. Look, man, I'm imploring you, I'm asking, I'm begging, get off the sidelines, go onto the field. We need you in the arena. You can do a lot in your community. You can get involved in your community. Take it back, folks. Don't say, well, this is the way it siempre ha sido. It's always been like this. It is our city, our state, our nation, and we have to hear the call, and we have to jump in the fight.
And arm yourself with knowledge. There's always that saying, knowledge is king. And the reality is,
they can listen to this show for sure for that. I'm telling you, because I listen to you guys on Tuesdays at 8:00, and it's absolutely phenomenal, some of the information that comes here. Of course, like you're saying, read up on some things, but Frank, you're right. Folks are going to have to step out and expect, look, this is not easy. Expect to be persecuted. That's all there is to it. Everybody here is trying to do a good thing for the state of Texas, because if we're going to save this country, really it does come down to the state of Texas now.
Right.
And so here we are standing up, and we're like, I want to say it, I'll give you a visual. We're like down here in Del Rio, Texas. This is about as South Texas as you can get.
It's not the end of the world, but you can see it from here.
It is the end of the road, though, man.
What is it? 2 miles from water, 2 feet from. Anyway, so.
Well, and since we're talking about heaven and hell here, real quick, guys. The street preacher me just rises up, folks. You got to get right with God. You got to get right. If there's ever a time, and certainly in our lifetime,
it's now,
that we need to spend time before the throne of grace, the throne of power, the throne of God.
Amen.
Pray for yourselves, your family, your children, your leaders, our nation. Pray for each other. Get armored up with the Word of God. Get into it. Read it daily.
Right.
Get into it,
folks. And to a lot of believers out there, I believe in the return of the Messiah. I really do. I believe that he can return at any moment. But what I've seen too, guys, is that there's this attitude of what's called escapism, in the faith community. That meaning that because the Messiah is returning, just let things go as they are, because this is God's will. But if you look at the scriptures, like we talked about last broadcast, Frank, King David, when he was about to stand up to Goliath and nobody else wanted to do it, and he went before King Saul, and I love the words that he said, "Is there not a cause? Yeah. Is there not a cause?" And then he went out with stones and he struck a giant down, and so, folks, the Bible teaches self-preservation. The scriptures teach that we are to protect our lands. God has put us in certain lands. Borders are set and laws are enacted, and so if you're out there and you're a believer and you're just waiting for the Messiah to come, well, fine. But also there's a word in Hebrew that's pretty amazing. It's hakmot, and it means both imitate and it means wait. And so it's the same word, meaning that while we are waiting, we imitate. So we imitate what God has we imitate the Messiah, what He would do, but we also preserve our way of life.
How do you say that again?
Hakmot. It's spelled the same.
I like it.
I'm gonna get a teacher. Hakmot.
Yeah.
Not called one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Lahot.
Lahot.
Yeah. You got the kh in there.
All right,
but folks, I just want to thank you so much for joining us. We do have a website. I'm just going to put up on the screen here real quick.
Yeah, can I just quick 30 seconds
here? Yeah. Let me get you back on.
First of all, so thanks for having me here on board. You guys are absolutely phenomenal, and everybody out in those 13 counties and SD24. Check us out. We're the real deal. We want to be your next senator. To do that, we're going to be everywhere, to include the border, to keep showcasing that the problem is also here, and because every county is a border county, and of course our election integrities, they're not secure. You send me there. We're gonna forensic audit the primaries. And of course, make sure that the penalty for fraudulent voting goes back to felony. I cannot believe that happened under Republican leadership. And there's a whole other list of things that have to get solved, and we're going to get after it. But to do that, we need to send the real Republicans, the real constitutionalists, the real conservatives, and I want to thank you, gentlemen, for what you all do. Hit the donate button for these guys. They could use some help. This is not cheap, and I love what you guys are doing here. So if you can help out my friends here, Frank Lopez and Manny Rodriguez, please do that where you can. And but thanks a lot, guys, for having me. The coffee and the tacos, I'm gonna chow on that. You're not supposed to eat like on camera.
Wait. So anyway,
I got something in my beard here.
Yeah, Frank. I don't know. Anyway, but
I do have a finishing thought real quick, guys. Look, Raul did say some things. Look, this is the reality of it. When the establishment swamp, and you see this on the socialist side, they get their candidate, they put their money where their mouth is, folks, because they know that it takes money to go down the highway, put gas in your vehicle, sleep in a hotel at night. It takes money to do this. And look, I know times are hard, inflation's through the roof, but it's just that much more important to get into prayer and support true warriors. Don't just blindly give your money to the major donor related organizations like the RNCC and the RNC folks. Give it to the candidates, because Kevin McCarthy is a swamp beast, and he's gonna give it to his puppets. Give it to the people. Now, real quick, I gotta say this: folks have been asking me to run for office. Man, the Word of God says that you've got to, you see a field, you consider the cost, and folks, it ain't cheap, it ain't easy. You got to give of your time, your treasure. You got to give of your family time. It's a sacrifice to jump into the political arena. And so what we need is just thanks for the encouragement. Thanks for the moral support. Thanks for the prayers. But you got to put your money where your mouth is. You got to volunteer, help out candidates like Raul in Senate District 24. Help out worthy candidates in your community. Volunteer, donate, get involved. You got to do it. It's for our state. It's for our nation, our children, and our future. Do it.
And research your candidates, folks. Research them. Go back to their how they voted in the past. Things like that, and just research everything about them, vet them, because this affects us as a whole nation. Folks,
Reyes for Texas, that's my website.
Oh yeah, ReyesForTexas.com.
The number 4.
Yeah, Reyes
number 4 Texas.
I linked it on mine.
Yeah, God bless you guys.
And Talk About It Live, we got it as well, talkaboutitlive.com. Make sure you go to our website, email us, call us with your comments and concerns, and what I'm going to try to get back to you. Folks, thank you so much for joining us.
God bless you.
God bless Texas.
Okay. And I'm still out.